We were on the couch watching some dumb reality show. I was about to head to bed and I leaned over to kiss my girlfriend Chloe. Good night. I told her I loved her, just like I did every night. She didn't say it back. She just got this weird, serious look on her face. She picked up the remote, muted the TV, and turned to face me. My stomach did a little flip. I knew this wasn't going to be a conversation about what to have for dinner tomorrow. She looked me right in the eye and said, "I like you, Mark. I really do. But I'm not in love with you." The words just hung there in the air. It felt like a punch to the gut, but a weirdly specific one. It wasn't a breakup. It was a downgrade, a demotion. She was informing me of a change in her terms of service, expecting me to just click "I agree" and continue. I'm a systems analyst. I spend my days looking at complex systems, finding inefficiencies, and making them logical. My brain doesn't do well with ambiguous emotional nonsense. So I just processed the data she had given me. She likes me. She is not in love with me. Acknowledged. "Okay," I said after a moment. "Thanks for the clarification." That was it. I didn't yell. I didn't ask why. I didn't beg her to reconsider. I just nodded, stood up, and went to bed. I could feel her staring at my back as I walked out of the room. She was expecting a scene. She was expecting me to fall apart, to ask me what I could do to win back her love. She was expecting me to start working for a promotion I didn't even know I had lost. She got nothing, just quiet, calm acceptance. As I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my phone on the nightstand buzzed. It was a notification from a group chat she was in with her friends, a chat she had once shown me and that I was still logged into on the shared tablet in the living room. I didn't even have to look. I knew what was happening. She was reporting back to her committee, the board of directors for her feelings. I heard her come into the bedroom a few minutes later, thinking I was asleep. She got into bed, the mattress shifting under her weight, and the little blue light of her phone screen illuminated her face. I could hear the faint tap, tap, tap of her thumbs. She was getting the validation she needed. Her friends were telling her how brave she was, how honest, how mature it was to speak her truth instead of just breaking up with me. They were praising her for this brilliant new relationship model she had invented. A relationship where she got all the benefits of my stability, my home, and my income without any of the messy obligations of being in love. She thought she was being clever. She thought she had just successfully renegotiated our contract in her favor. She had no idea she had just activated a termination clause. She had just downgraded me from boyfriend to roommate, and I was about to become the most efficient, logical, and emotionally vacant roommate she had ever had. The game was on. She had set the rules. I was just going to play by them with brutal precision. Update 1. It's been a week since Chloe's brave confession. A week of what she probably thinks is me maturely processing my feelings. In reality, it has been the implementation of what I'm calling the roommate protocol. Thanks for the comments on my last post. A lot of you said to just kick her out. That's not my style. That's a messy, emotional confrontation. I prefer a slow, quiet, systematic dismantling. It's more effective. The protocol began the morning after her announcement. I woke up at my usual time. Normally, the first thing I would do is lean over, kiss her, and tell her good morning. Not this time. I got out of bed, went to the kitchen, and made a pot of coffee. I poured myself a mug. I put the rest in the thermos to take to work. I left the empty pot on the counter. The man who made her coffee every morning was in love with her. That man was gone. The roommate who shares the kitchen with her does not. I got ready for work. I walked out the door with a simple "have a good day" tossed over my shoulder. No kiss, no "I love you." I was polite, civil, the same way I would be to a coworker I shared an office with. The first few days, she seemed to think this was great. She was cheerful, almost relieved. She had her space, the pressure was off. She had successfully friend-zoned her live-in boyfriend without losing the apartment or the lifestyle. She was getting everything she wanted. Then the small things started to add up. On Friday, she sent me a text in the afternoon.
Hey, the girls and I are thinking of trying that new Italian place tonight. Can you book us a table for 8? This was standard practice. I was the planner. I handled reservations, tickets, travel arrangements. I replied a few minutes later, "Sorry, I'm busy tonight. You should call them directly. They're usually booked up." Her reply was just a single question mark. I didn't respond. I was busy. I was at the gym, something I'd started doing with the extra time I now had in the evenings. That weekend, the protocol went into full effect. I did my laundry, only my laundry. I went grocery shopping. I bought food for myself for the week. Steaks, chicken, stuff for my lunches. I didn't buy any of her favorite snacks, her gluten-free bread, or the ridiculously expensive almond milk she liked. I came home, put my groceries away on my designated shelves in the fridge and pantry, and started meal prepping for my week. She came into the kitchen looking confused. "Did you go shopping?" "Yep," I said, not looking up from the chicken I was slicing. "You didn't get any of my stuff." It wasn't a question, it was an accusation. "Oh, sorry," I said, with the polite disinterest of a stranger who just cut you off in line. "I just grabbed what was on my list. I can text you a picture of my receipt so you know what your half of the shared stuff, like paper towels, comes to." The look on her face was a mixture of shock and outrage. I had never, not once in 2 years, asked her to split the grocery bill. But the man who bought all her groceries was in love with her. The roommate just pays his fair share. The cracks really started to show on Sunday. Her car had been making a weird rattling noise for a week. She'd mentioned it a few times, clearly expecting me to handle it. On Sunday afternoon, she came into my home office. "My car is acting up again," she announced, leaning against the doorframe. "I really think you should take a look at it. I don't want to get ripped off by a mechanic." I swiveled in my chair to face her. "That sounds stressful," I said, my voice full of practiced, neutral sympathy. "It's always a good idea to get a few different quotes before you commit to any major repairs. Yelp is a good resource for finding reputable shops in the area." I then turned back to my computer. She just stood there for a full minute, completely silent. I could feel her staring at me, trying to understand what was happening. The man who would have spent his Sunday afternoon under the hood of her car, the man who had a trusted mechanic on speed dial, was in love with her. The roommate was busy. She finally huffed and walked away. "The thing is, I'm not being a jerk. I'm being literal. She said she likes me, so I'm treating her like someone I like, a friend, a roommate. I would give a friend advice on finding a mechanic. I wouldn't spend my Sunday afternoon fixing their car for them." The currency of an in-love relationship, the acts of service, the thoughtful gestures, the unspoken support, was no longer in circulation. She had devalued our emotional currency to zero. I was simply adjusting the economy of our household to reflect that. She's starting to realize that her brave, honest declaration didn't just free her from the burden of loving me. It freed me from the obligations of loving her. And she's starting to see just how many of those obligations she took for granted. The silence in the apartment is getting louder. She keeps trying to start conversations to get some kind of emotional reaction from me. She gets nothing but polite, friendly indifference. She thought she was just taking love off the table. She's beginning to suspect she might have accidentally cleared the whole table, plates and all. Update 2. It's been a month now since Chloe put our relationship on notice. A month of the roommate protocol, and the system is beginning to show signs of a catastrophic failure on her end. What she thought was a brilliant power move has turned into a slow, agonizing, self-inflicted wound. The politeness, which she first found refreshing, has become a form of torture for her. It's a constant, impenetrable wall. There are no cracks, no moments of weakness she can exploit. I am consistently, cheerfully, and devastatingly neutral. Her birthday was 2 weeks ago. This was the first major test of the new system. In the past, I would have planned something for weeks, a surprise party, a weekend trip, a thoughtful, expensive gift.
This year, when I woke up on the morning of her birthday, I rolled over, saw she was awake, and said, "Happy birthday, Chloe. Hope you have a great day." Then I got up and started my morning routine. She lay in bed watching me, a look of complete disbelief on her face. I could see the gears turning in her head. She was waiting for the other shoe to drop, the surprise breakfast, the flowers that would be delivered, the hint about a special dinner reservation. Nothing came. She finally came into the kitchen while I was making my morning protein shake. "So," she said, trying to sound casual, "any plans for my birthday?" "Me?" I asked, turning to face her. "No, just work and then the gym. Did you have something planned?" "I just thought, we would do something," she stammered. "Oh," I said, a look of mild, friendly realization on my face. "I guess I figured you'd be celebrating with your friends, the people you're close with. I'm happy to grab a pizza and watch a movie with you tonight if you want, like we sometimes do as friends, but I didn't want to presume you didn't have big, important plans." The way I emphasized the word friend was a carefully calibrated strike. I was using her own logic against her. Grand romantic birthday celebrations are for people who are in love. People who just like each other get a casual offer of pizza. She spent her birthday evening at home on the couch, scrolling through her phone while I worked on my laptop next to her. The silence was deafening. Her friends, the ones who called her so brave, had all posted "Happy Birthday, Queen" on her social media, but none of them had actually made plans with her. The financial side of the protocol has also begun to bite hard. It turns out the boyfriend experience she was enjoying included a significant amount of passive financial support she was completely unaware of. I used to just pay for our dates, our vacations, her car insurance, her phone bill. It was all part of our shared life. Now that shared life was over. Her phone got shut off last week. She came to me in a panic. I just looked at her and said, "Oh, right. I took my card off the family plan since we're not really a family anymore. You'll have to call them and set up your own account." Her face went pale. She had no job. She did some freelance graphic design work, but it was sporadic and barely covered her shopping habits. She had been living a life funded by a man who was in love with her. Now, she was just a roommate who was late on her share of the bills. She has started trying to provoke me. She's trying to get the old me back, even if it's the angry me. She'll leave her stuff around, a mess for me to clean up. I don't. I just pile it neatly on her side of the bedroom. She'll play sad songs loudly in the living room. I'll put on my noise-canceling headphones. Last night was the biggest escalation yet. She came home from a night out, clearly having had a few drinks. I was reading in bed. She came into the bedroom wearing one of my old shirts and nothing else, the way she used to when she wanted to be close. She sat on the edge of the bed and started to cry. "I miss you," she said, her voice thick with tears. "I miss us." I put my book down and looked at her. My expression was one of mild concern, the kind you'd give a neighbor whose dog just ran away. "It sounds like you're having a really tough time, Chloe. Have you considered talking to a therapist? It can be really helpful to have an impartial third party to work through these feelings with." I delivered the line with perfect clinical detachment. I had taken her genuine, albeit manipulative, emotional plea and responded with a referral to a mental health professional. It was the emotional equivalent of telling someone with a broken leg that they should see a doctor. It was correct, helpful, and completely devoid of the personal intimacy she was desperate for. The tears stopped. She just stared at me, her eyes wide with the look of dawning horror. She was finally starting to understand. She wasn't dealing with a heartbroken man who was lashing out. She was dealing with a system that was operating exactly as designed. She had set the parameters. She had defined the relationship. And the result was this cold, sterile, and perfectly logical emptiness.
She thought she was being brave and honest. She's now realizing she was just stupid. The panic is setting in. The silence is getting louder than her words ever were. And the final system crash is coming. Final update. It's over. The roommate protocol reached its inevitable conclusion last night in a blaze of glory, or, more accurately, a quiet, soul-crushing whimper. The past 2 weeks have been a steady decline into desperation for Chloe. The apartment, once her stage, had become her prison, a clean, quiet, well-maintained prison where her roommate was polite and the silence was a constant reminder of everything she had lost. She had tried everything to get a rise out of me. Tears, anger, seduction, guilt trips. Nothing worked. I was a gray rock, a friendly, smiling, unmovable wall of indifference. The breaking point came, as I knew it would, over money and the future. The lease on our apartment is up at the end of next month. A few days ago, the renewal offer came from our landlord. I left it on the kitchen counter for her to see. Last night, I came home from the gym to find her sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the lease renewal. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk about this," she said, her voice small. "Okay," I said, putting my gym bag down. "What's on your mind?" "Are we going to renew the lease?" she asked. "I'm not," I said simply. The color drained from her face. "What? What do you mean you're not? Where are we going to live?" "I'm not sure where you're going to live, Chloe," I said, keeping my tone even and friendly. "But I've already signed a lease on a new place, a one-bedroom closer to my office. I move in on the 1st. She just stared at me. I could see the final pieces of her world crumbling in her eyes. This wasn't just a Cold War anymore. This was an eviction notice. I had made plans for my future, plans that didn't include her. You're leaving me," she stammered, the words sounding absurd even to her. "Leaving you?" I asked, feigning confusion. "No, our living arrangement is simply coming to an end. We're roommates, remember? And our lease is up. It's not common for roommates to sign new leases together if one of them is moving out. I found a place that's a better fit for me. I assumed you would do the same." That's when she finally broke. The tears, the anger, the carefully constructed victimhood, it all came pouring out. "This isn't fair," she screamed, standing up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. "You're being cruel. You're punishing me. I told you I made a mistake. I told you I loved you." "No, you didn't," I corrected her calmly. "You told me you missed me. You never said you loved me. But that's beside the point. You told me very clearly that you were not in love with me. I believed you. I accepted it, and I adjusted my life accordingly. I'm not punishing you, Chloe. I'm respecting your honesty." "But I want things to go back to the way they were," she sobbed. "I'm sure you do." And for the first time, a hint of steel entered my voice. "You want the man who was in love with you, the man who cooked for you and planned surprises for you and paid for your life and took care of you. You want all of that back, but you want it without the one thing he needed in return, for you to be in love with him too. You wanted a unicorn, a devoted partner who required nothing. That's not a relationship, that's a service provider. And I'm no longer in service." I let that hang in the air for a moment. She was looking at me, finally understanding. This wasn't a game. This was a final, irreversible system shutdown. Then, for the grand finale, I walked over to the counter and picked up a small velvet box that had been sitting there that afternoon. It had been delivered that afternoon. Her eyes lit up with a wild, desperate hope. Even after everything, she still had the arrogance to think this might be it, the grand gesture, the proof that I was in love with her all along.
She watched, breathless, as I opened the box. It wasn't a ring. It was a key.
A single, shiny new key on a simple metal ring. "This is the key to my new apartment," I said, holding it up for her to see. "I'm really excited about it. It's got a great view." The hope in her eyes died instantly, replaced by a look of such profound and utter defeat that it was almost hard to watch. Almost. She had gambled everything on the belief that my love for her was an unconditional resource she could turn on and off at her convenience. She had just found out that it came with one very simple condition: it had to be returned. She didn't say another word. She just sank back into her chair and stared at the lease renewal on the table. A piece of paper that was now her problem and her problem alone. I left her there and went into my office to work. The silence that filled the apartment wasn't loud anymore. It was just empty. I have 30 days left as her roommate. Then I'm free. She got exactly what she said she wanted: a life with a man who isn't in love with her.